Hey, what is up guys? Tyler here with Secure Team. Well, something major has just occurred and is still occurring underneath Yellowstone National Park. Now, before we get into this, I just want to reiterate here that this is not a fear-mongering video. I'm not a fear-monger. However, when I learned of this information, and it's in the mainstream news, and the fact that we just did the interview with Mr. Paulides about all of the strange things happening in our national parks, I wanted to get your guys' take on it and whether there's something deeper going on here. So if you haven't heard the news, over the past week, there has been a major swarm of earthquakes in Yellowstone. In fact, in just a 24-hour period, there were 72 earthquakes in a small localized area. And at this time, researchers are monitoring the volatile zone and have no idea when the current earthquake swarm is going to end. Now, while most of the earthquakes were smaller, there were a few towards the end that started spiking up to magnitudes of around 5.0, which is getting up there. And for any of you who haven't read up on Yellowstone, well, in a nutshell, there is a massive supervolcano underneath it that is long overdue for an eruption that, by the way, is capable of wiping out the vast amount of human, animal, and plant life in the continental United States. And experts are legitimately worried about when this eruption is going to occur. And so scientists currently believe that there's a, quote, 10% chance that a supervolcanic Category 7 eruption could take place in this century, which was even pointed out by theoretical physicist Michio Kaku, who recently stated that the danger we are now facing with the caldera is that it's long overdue for an eruption, which would, quote, rip the guts out of the USA. And we've also found out that the pocket of lava located under the park has turned out to be twice as big as scientists originally thought. And so most scientists today concur that the last eruption of the caldera took place some 640,000 years ago. And the United States is currently under contract with at least 4 countries, all of which have agreed to house displaced U.S. citizens in the unfortunate event that the Yellowstone supervolcano were to erupt. And so with this recent earthquake swarm, well, before it happened, there was sort of a calm before the storm, where seismic activity experienced a downtick and was eerily quiet. And then just a day later, boom, 72 earthquakes within a 24-hour period. They've continued all week, and of course, it's got some people worried, and so we're starting to see news reports about it. Now, of course, most scientists out there are telling us, hey, there's nothing to worry about. There are thousands of earthquakes that occur in Yellowstone every single year, but others, of course, are a little bit more skeptical, with most people highly doubting that if there were such a danger, they would likely much rather not tell us and risk starting widespread panic across the entire country. And, you know, Yellowstone has been shrouded in a strangeness and a mystique of its own. A lot of strange things happen there, and we're talking disappearances, UFO sightings, strange lights, and there's a ton of theories about just what is going on in Yellowstone National Park, particularly the areas that humans are not allowed to go. And we are talking about areas that are more than just roped off from the public, but are heavily guarded by the military in order to ensure nobody enters, almost like they're guarding something. Well, many would say not almost, they are. They're guarding something in there. And of course, there have been talks for years now that there is some sort of highly secret government installation that was built or is continually being built underground in the center of Yellowstone. Now, many people have theorized that a lot of these earthquakes aren't actually coming from this supervolcano and the tectonic plates shifting, but instead are the remnants of massive drills and machinery that are being used underground to dig these massive tunnels and the hollowing out of these massive caverns in order for them to install these deep underground bases. And, you know, that was one of the things that me and Mr. Polides were talking about in the interview, which, by the way, awesome guy. Was so happy to have him on. He's just, you know, he's the type of guy you want to sit down and have a beer with and just chat for hours. You know, he's very good, and I looked at that interview not so much as an interview, but more as an intelligent conversation between two people. Mr. Polides was very courteous and, you know, wanted to get my take on certain things as opposed to just having me ask questions, and I think that definitely made for a much richer interview. And we were talking about some of the things that could be going on in these national parks. Why are all of these people disappearing every single year? Now, of course, Mr. Polides kind of likes to sit back and not speculate, and would rather have us give our ideas. And, you know, like I said in that video, in a lot of these cases, it almost appears as if many of these people are getting caught up in some sort of portal. It's been said it's like they walk into a portal and then they either disappear and are never seen again, or they reappear miles and miles away. In many cases, these are children who will vanish, and if they ever are found, it's at the top of some mountain peak at a 10,000 feet altitude. You know, with a 2-year-old kid, obviously something had to take him there. He had to have gotten there somehow. And so it's been said that the government, through its operation of these secret bases in Yellowstone, are abducting people, or are testing or utilizing some sort of technology that is potentially creating these rifts, or portholes, or dimensions, whatever you want to call them, where people are literally walking into an area of the woods and disappearing. Or they could simply just be snatching these people up and taking them to these deep underground bases. You guys would be amazed, in the United States alone, how many people go missing every single year. The stats will blow your mind. And unfortunately, the data shows that many of these missing cases occur surrounding or within these national parks and forests, including Yellowstone. And speaking of these alleged underground bases, you guys want to see something really creepy? Alright, tell me if this doesn't blow your mind here. What you're seeing is a map that hit the web years ago, which was leaked and purports to show a system of underground bases, military bases, secret bases that shouldn't exist, that are actually linked together by a high-speed rail system. So like an underground subway system, so the people who are living and or working at these installations can hop on one of these underground subway systems and within minutes travel hundreds or thousands of miles to these interconnected bases. And what I've discovered is that when taking this map of these alleged bases, we have no real proof that this map is even real. However, when you place it directly over top of this map, which comes directly from Mr. Polides and shows where these localized clusters of disappearances that have occurred in these different national parks, you find something very scary, in my opinion, which you're seeing here as I fade this map of these purported underground bases in and out, overlaid on top of this map by Mr. Polides of these disappearances. We see that these localized clusters match up almost perfectly with the large majority of these bases on this map. I mean, just look at this. I'll let it play for a couple seconds. And, you know, all speculation aside, tell me that isn't freaky. Call me crazy, but I definitely think there's something to this, and that these underground bases may be playing a much larger role in these strange happenings and disappearances than we previously could have ever thought. So, there really is something eerie going on, and whether this super swarm with these earthquakes has anything to do with what we were just talking about, I don't know. It could be all natural. I can attest, just from the past videos that I've done, there's a lot of stuff that's happened in Yellowstone that cannot be explained. Lights, UFOs, strange sounds. Have you guys heard of something called the Yellowstone Lake music? Well, it continues to be a mystery after almost a century of reports of this really enigmatic sound that thousands of people have reported hearing above Yellowstone Lake, with it happening many instances on clear days and in early mornings. And it's been described as a remarkable celestial sound of an unknown or unexplained origin that, according to those that have heard these sounds, quote, resemble the ringing of telegraph wires or the humming of a swarm of bees, beginning softly in the distance, growing rapidly plainer until directly overhead, and then fading out just as rapidly and in the opposite direction. And these sounds above Yellowstone Lake have been occurring since 1895, when they were first reported. And to this day, there have been countless respected scientists and prominent park figures that have reported hearing the sounds as well. And, you know, it's just one more thing to add to the list of strange stuff happening in this park and in this area. So, hopefully, the supervolcano underneath Yellowstone is not going to blow, at least not while we're alive, right? But it is a bit disconcerting when these things happen, you know, and when they do, I don't like to make videos about them because I don't want to trigger anyone. I don't want to be called a fearmonger. But it is interesting, and I want to report on it because I think it's relevant for you guys to know, especially if any of you were planning on maybe visiting Yellowstone. You know, maybe give it a little time before you head out there, just to make sure everything's safe. Because, again, it's long overdue. We don't know when this thing could erupt. Or, you know, you could find yourself in a situation like those we spoke about with Mr. Polides. So yeah, let me know what you guys think, and thank you for stopping by today. I've got another video in the making. I hope all of you had a happy Father's Day. You know, to all the dads and fathers out there, taking care of their families and being the best people they can be. Keep doing what you're doing, lead by example, and raise those kids right. All right, so thanks guys, and I'll see you back in just a bit.